Hello, everyone. Looks like we are live. This is The Boy Who Cried Wolf. I'll wait just a few seconds to make sure that everybody has joined the live stream, and then we'll start discussing our fun activities and lesson plans for today. Hopefully today you'll learn something new. Remember, you can make comments in the chat box. Hopefully we can be more interactive today. I'd love to get you involved, and we also have a game that we'll play. So feel free to look at and type your comments in the comment box. See, I just shared my own comment. You should be able to make comments. All right, let's get started. Remember this past Monday, I signed the story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. I want to quickly review the setting and the story of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Remember, there was a small town in the mountains. And on the mountainside, there was a boy who watched the sheep. There was a wolf in the forest, but the boy was responsible to look after the sheep because the townspeople depended on them for their wool. They had thick wool coats, and the townspeople would shear them in order to make gloves, coats, and scarves to keep the people warm. But the boy was bored. He was sitting there all day, and he thought that he would cry wolf in order to scare the townspeople who would run up to the mountain. He did this 2 times, and the townspeople would run all the way up from the village to the mountaintop. They were fooled. But one day the boy saw a wolf in the midst of the flocks of sheep, and he screamed, "Wolf! Wolf! Wolf!" But the people didn't want to be fooled again, so they didn't believe him. They waited all day, but when the boy didn't come down, they thought they'd check on him. They ran up to the top of the mountain, and the boy was sitting there crying without the sheep. The old woman said, "Remember, if you lie, people won't believe you. It's important to tell the truth." And the boy learned his lesson. That was a quick recap of our story for the day. English sentences that help us to identify time. Today, our theme will be time and how it's shown in The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Are you ready? Before I start, I'm not sure that, I can't see the comment box. I don't see anybody making comments. So hopefully you can make those comments. I don't see any coming through, but let me see if I can change anything. Give me a second so that you can make comments that will appear in the chat box. Okay, looks like I'm seeing some comments come through. Ready to go? We're going to walk through The Boy Who Cried Wolf. There's several signs within the story that help us to identify time. So, first of all, do you remember what his job was, the little boy? He was supposed to sit there and watch the sheep. So instead of just sitting, do you think he sat there for a long time or a short time? He sat there all day, every day. When we sign the story, we don't just show that the person sat once, but we show them sitting. Do you know how we do that in ASL? Let's watch. that circular motion indicates sitting for a long time. It shows the boy sat all day, every day, day in and day out. So if you're signing to sit, that means sitting for a short period of time. You can move the sign in small circles to indicate for a little while, and in larger circles to indicate for a long while. This shows that the boy was sitting all day, every day. Can you think of some other signs from this story? Some other signs that show time like this? This is another one. The boy was sitting there all day. What was he doing? He was watching the sheep. So how do you show that somebody is continually watching sheep? Let's take a look. Again, we use that circular motion to indicate time. You can show a range of how long somebody is performing an action by how many circles you make and how slow you make the movement. You can watch something very quickly, you can just breeze over it, you can watch it all day, or for example, you can sit down, you can sit and then stand up, sit for a short time, or sit all day. All right, somebody else used a great example of to work. We're going to hold on that one because I'm going to show you that example later. So what's he doing here? He's showing us all day, but for several days. He's showing that the boy worked not just an hour or a few minutes watching the sheep and then heading back home. No, that he stayed and sat and watched the sheep for hours, all day, day in, day out. So this is the sign that we use for all day. That shows how long the boy was out there watching the sheep. What's another sign that you can think of in the story? So we've already done sitting, watching all day. What are some of the others? Help me remember. You guys want to see the next one? We've already covered watching, sitting. And this is the sign for caring for. It's caring for the sheep all day. So the boy not only takes care of and watches the sheep for a few hours, but all day, day in and day out, which is why we use that circular motion. Now I want to show you something else. I'm going to show you 4 different examples that you'll see on the screen. The first we already covered, sitting, watching all day, and taking care of. You'll notice there's a pattern among all of these signs. Let's take a look. Does anyone notice the pattern or the similarities? Okay, so somebody said the sign movement. And I know the screen is a little bit choppy. Let's start with this one. What does a sign movement look like? Look at just his hands. Where's the sign going? You're right, it's going in a circle. That circular motion shows repetition. So that's one thing we noticed. What else can we see? What is the movement of this sign? If you watch him, he's moving in a circular motion side to side. It's that same circular motion. So what we see is that circular motion, whatever direction it's going in, shows repetition. So what do you think the movement of the third sign is going to be? Do you think it'll be the same or different? So we saw a circular movement in the first sign, the second one. Let's take a look at the third. Look at this, the movement of this sign. So going up, down. Copy that movement with me. Do you see the circular motion? It's just like the other two. So first we saw the circular motion in the boy sitting all day, then watching the sheep. Oh, you think it's different? Okay. What's different about this sign? Remember, we saw sitting was in a circular motion. Watching was also in a circular motion. And all day follows that same circular pattern. Now let's look at the fourth sign. Do you think it'll be the same circular pattern or something different? Probably the same. Look at his hands and the movement of the sign. Do you see how he's moving his hands in a circular motion? Just like the others. You'll see all four signs have that same pattern of movement. That's the really cool thing about ASL, is you can show time by the movement of the signs. You can show repetition by using that circular motion. You can also show the length of time by how long or how big your circle is. You can show sitting for a short time, a long time, all day. You can watch something quickly. You can watch something for a few minutes or all day. You can also show all day, every day by showing that same circular movement. Or, taking care of someone for a few minutes or taking care of them every day. All of these signs have that same circular movement. See, that's a great thing about ASL. So now that we've talked about the circular movement that we see in all of these signs, there's actually another pattern. Let's see if you can catch it. You might have missed it the first time, so let's look at the videos again. We've already identified that his hands are moving in a circular pattern. Are there any other patterns you can see? Get ready. What other movement patterns do you see? Yep, well, his shirt is the same in every video, but your clothing doesn't show time. The background is also the same, but the background doesn't show time either. Let's look at the storyteller. Do you want to see what it is? It's his face. Let's look at the first sign again. What does the movement of his head look like? See, it's following that same circular pattern that shows sitting for a long time. Let's look at the next sign. What do we see him doing there? Again, it's the head movement is following the circular pattern of the signs. you'll see some slight similarities in their movement. That's following that circular pattern. Let's look at the third one. What do you think his head movement's going to look like in this one? Do you think it's going to nod back and forth, side to side, or stay in the same place? Or do you think it's going to move in a circular motion, just like the other two? Yep, I think so too. Let's take a look. This is when he's signing, "The boy watched the sheep all day." And you see his head is moving in that same circular pattern, indicating repetition, just like the other two. So far, all three follow that circular pattern. Do you think the fourth one's going to be different? Maybe. We'll just have to see. This is when he's signing, "Boys taking care of the sheep." And look, his head movement follows the same patterns as the other three. ASL shows both with the movement of the hands in a circular pattern, when we see the boy sitting, caring for, watching the sheep all day, both in the movement of his hands and in the head movement. You can't do one without the other in ASL. Again, this indicates the length of time. Maybe you learned something new today. So the next one's a little bit challenging. I'm going to show you a video. Are you ready? Closely. Try to, this action is short or long. You can see he's showing to shave. So who are they shaving? Of course, they're shaving the sheep, because they want to bring the wool back to the townspeople to make blankets, gloves, hats, socks, and scarves to keep them warm. So the next sign indicates that the sheep now have been sheared, their wool is gone, and so they are walking around the pasture, but then over time, their coat grows again, and they get woolly. So that means that their wool is growing, and they go from being skinny sheared sheep to sheep that have lots of wool again. All right, let's review that sentence again. So now you'll see that the sheep have been sheared, but we know that the sheep don't grow their wool overnight. Do you think they can? No, of course they can't. Let's just imagine that we are the boy taking care of the sheep. This is the sheep when it's full of wool, and we want to shave it. So the sheep is now clean shaven. Do you think the sheep will grow its coat back overnight? No. Think about a person. If somebody has a huge head of hair or a fro and they want to be clean cut or shave their head just like the sheep. Maybe they want to shave their whole head. Are they going to grow a full head of hair overnight? No, of course they won't. We typically sign it showing that their hair grows slowly over time. And then they can shave it off and grow it back out slowly until it's a full head of hair. Again, this shows a time sequence. And we know that somebody's not going to grow out their hair overnight, just like the sheep. Once the sheep are shaved, it's going to take some time for their wool to grow back, and it'll grow back slowly over time. Does that make sense? Okay, I'd like you to watch the video again. Are you ready? Do you see what's happening there? This is great. This shows how long the boy is watching the sheep, that they go in stages from being sheared to growing their wool back, and all that while they're grazing on the grass. The sheep are growing their coats. Then when it comes time to shear the sheep, they get sheared again. So ASL has this unique feature of showing time. That's the cool thing about ASL. All right, now I've showed you some examples. So I want you to think of another sign that can show time, either a short amount of time or a long amount of time. Do you have a favorite sign? Okay, I see somebody saying work. You can work for a short time, but how do you indicate working for a long time? See, yep, this circular motion. That's when you're putting a lot of effort, lots of sweat into your work. Mm-hmm. What are some other examples? Right, you can use the sign for cooking. You can cook for a short amount of time, or you can cook forever. It could take you all day to make a meal, right? What are some other examples? Mm-hmm. I know you guys love to play, right? I'm sure you love playing outside, just like I do. So you can show the sign for play, but if you want to show that you were playing all day, how do you do that? Mm-hmm. Right? You can also show it in that circular motion like you were playing all day, every day. Your mom is probably going to say, it's time to come in and eat. And I'm sure that you want to stay out and play, but it's important to go home. You probably also like to watch TV, right? You can watch TV for a short time, or we can show you watching TV for a long time, or every day. You can also use the sign for write. You can write for a short time, write for a long time, write forever. Notice that movement is that same circular pattern that we saw before. You can also read. I love to read. I hope you love to read too. You can skim something, you could read something, you could read all day, every day, again, showing that circular repetitive motion. And you move your head in the circular motion too. All right, all of these are great examples. We're going to take a break, get a drink or some water before we move over to talking about English. I'm going to get some water too. All right. So we've talked about signs and how sign movements, both the hands and the head, show time. So now we're going to move over to talking about English sentences. So, how do you know when you're reading an English sentence how long something happened? Let's look at the first sentence. It said, the boy sat for... There's 3 choices. Each of them showed different amounts of time, right? We could say that the boy sat for 1 hour. Is 1 hour a long time or a short amount of time? What do you think? It's pretty short. We've got 24 hours in a day, so 1 hour out of that isn't very long. So we can see time in English by looking at the phrase 1 hour. You see the sign that I'm using is different, indicating the boy sat for a very long time. can identify this because in the English sentence it says a very long time, which means it was long. Let's look at the next one. This one says, the boy sat all day. It's just like the boy taking care of the sheep. He did that all day, every day, and he had to sit for the whole day. So we identify time in this sentence by looking at the two words all day. Okay? Now I want to play a game. I'm going to show you a video, and I'm going to give you two English sentences, and I want you to tell me which sentence matches the ASL video that you see. Are you ready to get started? Let's see who can answer the quickest in the chat box. Which sentence is correct? Sentence A or sentence B? Are you ready? Which of these sentences best matches the ASL video? What do you think? Send your comments in the chat box. What do you think? Do you think it's A or B? It's definitely A. You're right. Yep, the answer is A. How did you know that A was the correct answer? Was it by looking at the boy or the word sat? What helped you see the length of time? See, English, we read this as a very long time. We know that an hour is short. Good job, you guys. Ready for the next sentence? You guys did a good job on this first one. Okay. So which sentence, sentence A or sentence B, best matches the ASL video? Remember in the story, the boy sat and watched the sheep. Which do you think it is, A or B? It looks like a lot of people are saying B, and you're right. The answer is B. How did you know? Help me out. What clued you in? You saw the words all day in the sentence. And that helped you know that it was a long time. Because we know from the storyteller that the boy is watching the sheep for a long time. Right, and you also recognize the circular hand movement that he was using. Great job. Okay, now I'm going to sign 2 times, and you have to decide which sentence best matches what I sign. Which do you think? Does that best match sentence A or sentence B? All right, I'll sign it one more time. Does that match A or B? You're right. Best matches sentence A. And how did you know? It's because I signed that I watch TV for a short time. And you see that movement that I used showing the sign watch indicates a short time. And you saw that in English by the phrase a short time. Sentence B says all day. We would sign that by using that circular motion again, showing that we watch TV all day. You all are following along great. Good job. I'm going to sign again. You need to decide which sentence best matches. Does A or B best match what I just signed? You guys are doing great. It matches sentence A. How did you know that this meant I played all day? Right? You saw that circular motion and you see the English phrase all day. Great job. So now I want to go back to the story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and see where we can tell in the story what sentences indicate a short period of time or a long period of time. Get your iPad ready. We're on page number 4. So how can you tell from the English sentence that something happened for a long period of time or a short period of time? So what words or phrases are we looking for? The first thing that I see is the boy sat and watched. Is that long or short? We can tell because the story says he did the same thing every day, meaning that he sat day after day and he watched day after day. So he didn't just do this for one day, but day after day. Let's look for another one. Okay, right. We also see not only the phrase same thing every day, but day after day. That way we knew that the boy was sitting for a long time. You can also look at the picture. On the left-hand side, you see, some fuzzy sheep, then you see the boy sitting, watching, and then playing around. This helps show that the boy was here all day, every day. You guys are skilled readers, doing a great job. Let's do one more. Oh, I forgot one on this page. The sheep were getting fluffier till they were shaved. Let's take a look at this next page. What do you see? First off, from the background, is it day or night? You can show that the background is going from day into evening, showing all day. What words can you catch that help you understand how long the boy is doing something? One of them is every day. For how many days? We don't know. It just says every day. So you can decide how many days he was doing it for. Could be 12 days, which would be 2 weeks. Could be more. We also see the English phrase, and again, and again. We've seen the phrase every day, the phrase again and again. But what was going on? That the sheep continued grazing, growing fluffier and fluffier until they were shaved. And again and again. So we can see that the boy is sitting here day in, day out. That it's not just a short time in one day. Great job, everyone. I really enjoy learning with you today. Hopefully, as you read the story and watch the narration, you can see English phrases that stand out to you about time, and you can catch the movement of the signer showing time. We're going to close for today. This week, I signed the story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and we did some lessons and games. If you look on Podia, there's additional worksheets for activities that you can do related to this book. Next week, I'm excited to announce that I will be signing the story, Buck and Bull. This story talks about two good friends. It's a beautiful story, and I will be signing it to you early next week on Monday, April 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So put it on your calendars and be ready to watch next Monday. You can watch that live through YouTube, just like you're watching now, at our YouTube channel. I'm excited to see you all next Monday. Bye-bye for now. You did a great job today.